Well, I think the Viva program represents an historic betrayal of auto workers. I have not talked to a single auto worker, retired or working, who trusts the UAW with providing for their health care. And because the question comes down to, how can you trust an organization that has worked with the auto bosses to close plants, increase workloads while cutting wages? The loss of over 600,000 jobs is proof of the utter uselessness of the UAW. The fight is, above all, a political one. A question of the political independence of working people in order to put forth and support a program that addresses their needs. This Viva agreement, like all UAW agreements, has two things in mind: to increase the profits of the auto bosses and to line the pockets of the UAW bureaucracy. And I would urge all auto workers to reject this agreement, because not only does this agreement set back auto workers, but it creates the conditions for workers in industries throughout the country and the rest of the world to be pushed backwards. I mean that in order to make up for the loss in their dues income due to the loss of members, that the UAW seeks this large cash hoard in order to protect their privileges and perks. At the same time, it will make the UAW one of the major financial players in the world. And it will be in their interest to cut workers' benefits further in order to make a profit for themselves.
As you know, I understand that Wall Street supports this program.
Well, yeah, that is another indication of who this contract benefits. General Motors stock went up 9.4% in one day just with the news that they had reached this agreement with the UAW. This is incredible, that a union supposedly engaged in a struggle against a corporation would actually increase the wealth of the corporation to that extent.
Would you consider the UAW to be a workers' organization as it has historically been suggested?
No, without a, the UAW is not a workers' organization. It's a business. We have to face facts. It is a business, and now with the Viva being transferred to them, but that program, like I say, they become a major player, an investment banker, so to speak. That's what they have become, but they are not a workers' organization. Because workers are contained in the UAW does not make them a workers' organization. These workers are trapped inside that organization, would exist only for the enrichment of the ruling class and the UAW bureaucracy. I suggest that workers everywhere must turn out to reject this agreement. And at the same time, they must begin to set up committees to watch the UAW leadership, to be there when they supposedly count the votes, and make preparations for organizing a new leadership that will take workers on a new trajectory. You know, today we might as well face it. The S word must come back into the language of the working class, or there's nowhere to go. Society must be reorganized, and it must be reorganized on a socialist basis. There is no other answer. Capitalism has run its course. Workers can no longer afford this system. I think this, I keep coming back to this. This contract is an indication that workers must begin to prepare to wage an all-out political struggle to reorganize society along democratic and egalitarian ways. That is the only answer. I mean, there's been 1 million Iraqis killed, thousands of American youth wounded, tens of thousands wounded, thousands killed, all in an illegal war of aggression, a criminal act. Now, just like the UAW has not spoken out against the attacks by General Motors on its membership, it has not spoken out against this egregious war being waged in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they will not speak out against the war that's being prepared to be waged in Iran. Now, all these things are an indication of the lack of political power by the working class to stop these things that they don't agree with. There's no worker who agrees with democratic rights being taken. There's no serious worker who really agrees with wars of aggression. But without political power, there's no possible way to change these courses of action. Just last week, the Senate passed a resolution censoring an article in the paper by MoveOn.org. Not necessarily a group that I agree with, but when you stop and think about it, the Senate has censored free speech, while at the same time passing laws that allows the government to spy on all American citizens. This is the road capitalism has taken us down the road toward a police state. And the negotiation of contracts for auto workers cannot be separated from that. It is all the same thing and part of the same struggle.
Another aspect of it also, though, is if the Democratic Party is prepared to kick in the teeth MoveOn.org, who is one of their bigger supporters, what will they do to the working class when it begins to struggle?
That is a very good point, in that no single Democrat came out in defense of MoveOn.org, which is an organization that constantly attempts to give them a left cover in order to deceive the working class, and they wouldn't even defend them. There was a time when the American auto companies dominated the world market. And because of their domination of the world market, it appeared they made certain concessions to auto workers that made it appear that the UAW was some kind of really militant fighting organization. But that was never the case. As soon as the conditions changed and globalism came into effect, as nations that were destroyed after World War II began to build back up again, suddenly the UAW's policies changed. Their policies then reflected the need to compete against companies in other countries. That meant the beginning of granting concessions to the auto bosses in America, which this contract, of course, represents a continuation of that. At the same time, globalization itself has really created the conditions to unify workers all over the world. We're all being attacked by the same bosses. We have the same problems. But rather than recognize that and attempt to unify us, the UAW, working in defense of American capitalism and its predatory interest, are just simply trying to divide us even to a greater extent than they have in the past. So this contract itself represents an assault upon the working class throughout the entire world, not just auto workers or industrial workers in America.